The ambience of a small town at night is one that's hard to put into words. A place that's core essence is to accommodate crowds of eager shoppers lies empty. Illuminated by lights from above, with colours emanating out of the various shops into the street outside. This unique feeling has been a part of past intrigues that I can recall as far back as the age of 8, as I would read a unique book series, The Hidden People. Stories that followed a boy exploring a cloaked world of his small town that came to life once absorbed by the night. This idea, along with its ominous and eerie imagery, created an allure towards what could happen in an illuminated world void of its domestic inhabitants. And to this day, as I have more frequently visited my small town street in the blanket of night, the sense of an otherworldly presence observing my movements is one that's become an accomplice with this atmosphere. This lingering feeling, this awareness of the familiar becoming otherworldly, all caused by the Earth's rotation, is one lacking a simple definition. But the 2020 film The Vast of Night, that went largely unnoticed, might be the closest expression of this unique ambience. The events of the film takes place in real time as evening turns to night. We follow Everett, the local radio disc jockey, along with Faye, the part-time town switchboard operator, as they leave the gymnasium before the start of a local basketball game that draws a large congregation of the townsfolk. Already the film is comprised of these long shots that glide through crowds and behind cars. By the time we move on from the school, we already feel like we know these characters, but this isn't pulled off lightly. The choice to throw the audience into the social world of this town as violently as it does is the first of a few rather large creative risks director Andrew Patterson takes. The fast conversing of characters drenched in 1950s slang and overlapping conversations they all have with Everett can make you feel a bit lost within the first 17 minutes. And while this dialogue is mainly throwaway in subject matter, it gives us a clear idea of the characters and the social structure of the community. It immerses you into the town, and if you let it, this introduction becomes the anchor for what is deemed normal, allowing you to see the coming events of the film through the characters' eyes. And with this introduction, we already come away like we know our main protagonists rather well. Everett comes across as a confident realist who lives in the practical, while Faye dreams of bigger aspirations than what's found inside the town, along with a wonder for the technological boom that's about to speed up in the second half of the 20th century. But conversations of predicted future tech discussed under the blue hanging lights begins this slow descent into this nighttime atmosphere that anything beyond the ordinary could happen. These long shots as we follow the characters away from the school and into the high street act as this bridge between the warm colours of the crowded gymnasium and into the vast blue of the empty night. As Everett parts ways, we continue with Faye, relieving her mother of switchboard duties. Tuning in on Everett's broadcast, the film starts the paranoia of the night as a strange signal hijacks the radio.
Boeing has introduced its new line of very own
Unbeknownst to our naive protagonists, we as an audience know what comes next. In our current landscape, the awareness of unaccounted for objects that sail through our skies has become more mainstream. What was once explained away as weather devices or the planet Venus has been given a re-examination in the wake of Navy leaks and cooperating accounts between governments. Over the last 10 years, as we understand more about the stars in our night sky and their collection of planets, this desert of lights has become reimagined as a possible scattering of oases. The believability of others that watch us from the clouds and the paranoia it envelops us in is the driving force of The Vast of Night. Rather uniquely, the film doesn't hide its otherworldly presence from the audience. The science fiction encasement is centre stage as the opening shot dollies into a television that places us in the 1950s, along with the televised Paradox Theatre, a clear parallel to the Twilight Zone. With this simple framing device, it informs the educated viewer that the presentation that's about to follow will dive into the mystery of science fiction. Those sweeping shots that remain far from our characters now give off a feeling as if the camera is its own character. The flickering lights around the gymnasium seem suspicious, and the main street's low-hanging lights subliminally reveals where this story will take us. And when this evasive signal drowns out Everett's voice, we as an educated audience know that there is indeed observers in the night sky. What follows is an impressive 10-minute single take of Faye switching between lines in an attempt to get to the bottom of the strange signal that's now heard in the background of an alarming call.
Number, please.
Hello? Hello?
Listen, ma'am, can you disconnect and then try again? It's all...
Calling. It's a strange, large object holding over my land.
Soon after, she phones Everett in hopes he might be able to reveal the source of the signal. At this point, the peculiar sound isn't expected to be anything more than a local radio interference, or at the highest level of speculation, the Russians. Our characters then decide to broadcast the signal out onto the radio in hopes of identifying the strange sound. However, our perspective doesn't simply cut to Everett's radio station, but instead launches out of the door and through the town. In this well-crafted, seemingly single take, we're able to understand the geography of the town, where its inhabitants are, or more importantly, where they aren't. The weaving probe-like camera snakes through the area as if it's a curious spectator trying to understand its surroundings. This impressive sequence is what cemented that nighttime ambient feeling I had been in search of, that with the cover of night, your movement through populated areas may go unseen by those that live there, but not by those that reside in the same darkness. The sequence ends on a ringing phone.
Everett, we got a caller.
Put him through.
He's from out of town. It sounds like a man knows
Then
something.
put him through now, Faye. Come on, please.
Sir, we are connecting you now.
On the end of the line is a possible answer to the origins of the intrusive signal.
That last song short, but we do have a caller here who may know something. Now, Billy, would you mind telling us all what you know?
Yes, I have a story that might be helpful. I don't know it may not be, but I'll go ahead and give it.
As we listen in on the caller's story, the biggest creative risk is taken as the perspective pulls out from the opening shot's TV and into darkness, with only our imagination left to place imagery to the ominous story we listen to. The screen remains black for a collective 3 minutes, and in this time, the question I had as to why I feel such a peculiar feeling as I walk the streets at night became clear. The parts of the story that aren't there for us are the parts that rely on us to create. With the Hidden People books, I had to create imagery between the paintings to help support what was lacking when my dyslexic mind read the text. Even a story we're being told by a friend about people we don't know, listening to audiobooks, or tales we hear on the radio. Our minds conjure up images to make sense of what's going on. The streets are empty, the shops are all closed. I'm not supposed to be there, but you never know why. The imagination takes over as it does so uniquely in the dark, and the idea of others that watch from afar becomes morbidly comforting. The darkness will always seem empty, but in reality it never was. Nocturnal creatures walk the pavements, just as rocks and sunless planets travel the dark of space. The truth is, we have never been alone. We share our existence with the countless others. But the extent as to what we classify as an other is down to the individual. One may catch a midnight fox scuttling from an overflowing bin, and that justifies the feeling of an unseen presence. But others will always wander beyond what we see in the light and cast their imagination out into the darkness. For the characters of The Vast of Night, this slow realization that this sound is coming from the dark is haunting just as it is exciting. The film's depiction of discovering something beyond reason is why I still walk the streets at night. The hope of coming across something only a few have seen is the hidden aspect behind my fascination with the lonely dark, and why the vast of night revealed more about me than I knew. If what you've heard so far about the vast of night has interested you, then I highly recommend giving it a watch. Give it the benefit of the doubt when you come across these creative risks throughout the film, and believe in its world. The feeling the film left me with is one entirely unique. One that's left me eager to search for the unique experiences of the unknown.